We were informed yesterday that the chairman was unable to see us, but we are very pleased that this morning a representative, we were able to hand over a copy of the memorandum to a representative, and who has informed us that he will be bringing it to the attention of the commissioners. I believe this is a positive move because the aim of Bersih 2.0 is to enter into discussions with all stakeholders. Of course, the main organization here would be the Election Commission in relation to election reform. Bersih 2.0 is now a completely civil society movement for electoral reform. It is basically a movement of citizens for citizens. Previously, it involved political parties. Now, it does not involve political parties as part of its coalition. It's a coalition of civil society organizations. The aim of this is to ensure that the public are no longer bystanders in this important democratic process of elections. We have to become part of the process. And therefore, it requires education of the public. That will be one of the goals. Amongst the various things that we have sought in this memorandum, we have mentioned two immediate concerns. One is in relation to the registration of voters that is taking place at this point. There are many complaints that there are obstructions to that registration process. Now there are over 4 million voters who are entitled to be registered. Now we must, and we have asked the Election Commission to assist in quickly registering these voters, because no one should be disenfranchised. No eligible voter should be disenfranchised. The second thing we have raised, immediate concern we've raised with the Election Commission, is in relation to election offences that were committed in the last two by-elections, and in fact any of the elections, previous elections. And we've asked for those reports that have been made in relation to the election offences to be to cause investigations and for action to be taken in relation to that. There's no point having an extensive election offences law if we're not going to enforce it. And I believe there are enough powers there. And I believe the Election Offences Act is clear enough to cover some of the reported instances of offences. I think it's well covered within the provisions of the Election Offences Act. It's just a question of the authorities taking action. And I believe that if there are breaches, it doesn't matter who committed them, then action must be taken. So those were the immediate concerns we've mentioned. One of the other things that is very important is the delimitation process is going to begin, it's possible to begin, may possibly begin in March next year, because it's 8 years since the last delimitation exercise. A lot of the members of the public are not aware that they can actually participate in this process. They have a right to give their views on the delimitation. Now, delimitation is what determines the sizes of constituencies. It is critical because there are guidelines under the federal constitution that ought to be followed. So we believe that we want to engage EC on these and the various we've got 15 issues that we have raised there. For example, in relation to postal votes, we have also raised issue of automatic registration. We ought to have automatic, we ought to move towards that. So in summary, I think those are some of the issues that we would like to raise. In the long term, we also want to raise the issue of local council elections and elections of senators. By the way, elections of senators is actually provided for in the federal constitution. All it needs is a law to be passed. That is something in the long term that we ought to look at. But for the immediate present, we need to look at the electoral process and ensure that it is clean and fair. Everything that we have said in our memorandum is backed up either by the law or by international best practices. So we have based our memorandum entirely on that. Malaysia, there is no reason why Malaysia cannot conform to international best practices.
It's very important for us to see that why electoral reform, we are not pushing it for the sake of it, but this is an essential part, the essential condition that we may have to have a vigorous and healthy multi-party democracy. And that's the only recipe for stability, progress and prosperity. Because we need to make sure that the opposition, politicians, both opposition and the government will work for us rather than, the people have to serve the interests of the politicians.
After this, we want to, of course, seek an appointment with the Election Commission. I believe they've already had a meeting with Mafrel, so we are hoping that we will get a meeting, and we will discuss all the issues that we've raised here. Yeah. Apart from that, we want to carry on out a public education exercise. As I said, these are things the public can actually get involved in, and it's our right. Which is why we're entirely a civil society movement. We're not doing this for any political parties. We're doing this for ourselves, for the citizens of Malaysia. We have never had a meeting with the Election Commission.
For 2.0 is the first one. We have met, Bersih 1.0 had met with them before the 2008 elections.
But for the new Bersih, no, we haven't yet.
There's actually one issue that we want to stress. We think that, as civil society groups are pushing for voter registration drive, the EC should show cooperative behavior in this to complement their effort, and rather put up some obstacles like limiting the numbers of forms they can get. And we expect the EC to come back to us to discuss on this. Yeah.
That is a very critical, that is one of the most pressing issues at the moment. As I've said, there appears to be over 4 million eligible voters. Now we have to ensure all of them are registered before the next election. That's our duty.
So what kind of public education things you
Right. One of the immediate things we want to do is in relation to delimitation or delineation. In other words, the carving out of the constituencies. Because under the federal constitution and under the relevant laws, the public can have a say, and the Election Commission can take on board their views. And a lot of members of the public don't even realize that. So we need to advise them that they must participate in this process to ensure that the constituencies drawn up truly represent the interests and truly follow the guidelines under the federal constitution.
So Bersih going to have a mass rally just like the last time?
We have no plans to do so. I mean, we need a cause. If people are prepared to talk to us and to engage with us and to bring changes, there's no need for one. So that's what we're looking for first. That'll be our first port of call, to engage. And we want to engage with the government, with Barisan Nasional, and we also want to engage with the opposition parties, because we would like to carry out these formal and informal discussions with them on how to improve our electoral system.
And I think the question whether we should walk or not is probably a call of the EC rather than us. If they do not, advance the cause of electoral reform, then it's not only that Bersih need to walk, but the entire nation needs to walk. So it's really their call. If they talk to us and, if you can see progress, then we don't see much of need to do so.
We are going to launch on the 15th of September. We're planning to launch a report that has been done on the delineation exercise. And so we want to launch the report as well as, yes, Bersih 2.0. In a sense, we're already there. We're a coalition of organizations. We have, what are the numbers now? The 40 endorsing
for this memorandum is
60 organizations.
The numbers of Bersih coalition is growing because we're actually reaching out. In the past, we have about 70 groups. Now we are reaching out to even more groups, and more groups have shown interest because they feel very comfortable to be with one coalition that's consisting only NGOs.
So we'd like to, as I say, engage, and we think EC will. I mean, by all indications, they've accepted the memorandum. So we hope we can have a discussion, and we'll keep you posted when that happens.
We also welcome that the public to pay attention to the issue we raise, because I think eventually what we need is a national conversation involving all stakeholders. So it's not something we're going to be determined in this building, but throughout the nation.
And we invite views, of course, of members of the public. It's actually a work in progress that has started this year. We actually started at the end of last year, and it's a work in progress which we commenced this year. The official launch will be on the 15th of September. But we are already operating as a coalition because it's a movement for free and fair elections. So we're just a citizens movement. So we're just a coalition of other NGOs.